So thank you very much. My name is Jodi O'Donnell Ames, and I'd like to propose a question to you. Are you living a life with purpose? What does that look like? What does that mean? So I have three questions, and one is, for the most part, is your life fulfilling? The second one is, are you using the skills and talents that you were blessed with? And the third one is, do you enjoy what you do? Whatever that is, do you enjoy what you do? So if you don't mind, I'm sharing my story of how I found really my life with purpose in my 40s and how I'm excited about what's next. This is me, age 7. Quite a long time ago. The first step to knowing who you are and living a life with purpose is to accept who you are and know who you are. I was a skinny, short, messy-haired woman, or young child then, and I'm now obviously still the same, with a nose that was too big for my face, but I had a huge heart. And I recognized that early on. As a matter of fact, now as an adult, I know that I was an empath. And children who are empaths and who are sensitive don't always fit in. And I was one of those weird kids who didn't fit in. And that's okay. I wrote poems, so if I wasn't popular before this, that only added to it. I recited poems, I read poems, I wrote poems. And whenever I had the opportunity, I was in front of someone performing them. So again, that was who I was. Now, this child, who I recognize as being a little bit different, did several things. One, when I was probably 11 years old, maybe a little bit younger, I remember I was born on Christmas Day, and I remember going to family parties, Christmas Eve, and there were tons of people, there were tons of food, presents, and for me, as an empath, I needed to kind of retreat for a while, and I would go upstairs, lock my bedroom door, I'd have the phone book, those big Bell telephone phone books that I don't even know if they make anymore. I'd sit on the floor, cross-legged, I'd close my eyes, open it up, and pick a number. I would call the number, as long as it didn't cost my parents anything, because I didn't want to get in trouble, and I would proceed to have a conversation with a total stranger. And many times, that person was an elderly person home alone. And that person would say, "Who are you? Why are you calling me? And who is this? And is this so-and-so?" And I'd say, "No, it's just someone, a secret admirer, and I wanted to share a conversation and wish you a happy holiday." And that was who I was, and I loved it. I loved doing things like that. In addition, something happened to me around the same age that changed the trajectory of my life forever. And I have to own it as part of living my life with purpose, and I have to recognize what happened. It was May 23rd, 1976, and I had a crush, and his name was Billy Carr. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, he was athletic, he was popular, he was everything that I was not. And probably because his home was on the same route as my home, he walked me home from school twice. So, Billy was my Leif Garrett. Some of you know who that was, some of you do not. Let's see, today Brad Pitt, whoever. Anyway, he was my crush, and I was always an athlete. I was on my childhood soccer field where there were hundreds of kids after school playing, and Billy was there, and he was there with Tim, and I was there with my best friend Deb, and we were spying on our crushes. Again, this was a sunny May day, May 23rd, probably 4:15, and out of nowhere, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, lightning struck. And everyone on that field, including myself, fell to the ground. And I remember dusting myself off and getting up and saying, what was that? What happened? And laughing. And everybody got up slowly, except in my vision, there was Billy. And he did not get up. And he lost his life that day at the age of 13. And I remember vividly what lightning does to the human body. And at that age, which I was told that event would never happen again for another 25 years, that it was a freak accident. No matter what I did to try to find comfort in my loss and what happened to me, nothing worked. Talking to adults didn't help. Trying to make sense of it didn't help. Helping was healing. And when I put all of that energy, that grief and sadness into creating a fundraiser, that's next, for a memorial scholarship, I learned that made a difference and that made me feel better. So again, finding a life with purpose. Knowing who you are and accepting it, even if it's a weird kid. I became a teacher, and because I loved children, I loved leadership, I loved making an impact and a difference, and creating and writing and all of those things. So of course I was a language arts teacher, and I was teaching with a reading specialist, Marge O'Donnell, dynamic woman, who said, you know, I have this son at home. He's about your age, he's handsome, he's funny, he's smart, and he's available. And he's still living at home, and he's 25, so maybe you want to meet him. True story. So 8 months later, he took Mom's advice, and yeah, I'll meet this teacher friend of yours. Came to an apartment warming party that I was hosting with a tall blonde. However, he was all of the things that she mentioned, and we started dating, and 2 years later, we married and had a beautiful pasta and potatoes child, Alina, Italian and Irish, redhead, green-eyed little girl. And life was good until it wasn't. In 1995, when he was 29 years old, Kevin started symptoms of what we learned was Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. 30,000 Americans live with the disease, and because he was 29, they didn't think it was ALS, but at 30 on Memorial Day weekend, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness that would take his life within 2 to 5 years. And I remember vividly, again, coming home from the University of Pennsylvania with our greeting our 2.5-year-old, knowing how our lives were going to change dramatically. And as a nurturer and as an empath and as a woman and a mother and a wife, I had no idea how to even proceed. But I followed my heart and my purpose. And within 1 year, Kevin was in a wheelchair. 2 years, he had a feeding tube. 3 years, he was ventilated and paralyzed and speechless. And this picture is 2 years in February 2001, he passed away. He was an incredible man, and he used his disease. We used the disease to spread awareness and hope and possibilities for others, and I'm proud to say that we are in the Congressional Record. We helped to pass Medicare for patients who are living with ALS. It was something like a 24, maybe a 2-year period, 24-month period, and then now it's 3 months. So we were on television, in the newspaper, and did whatever we could to make a difference. This is Kevin on the left, February, this is 14th on Valentine's Day, passed away on the 21st, and then there were 2 of us. The second step in knowing your purposes, know your strengths and challenges. I say about loving Kevin and caregiving that it was the best of times and the worst of times. that it was who I was. I automatically was a nurturer and a giver and a provider and a problem solver. What I was really bad at was being alone and trying to figure out what was next for me, because my purpose left. 24/7, I was his arms, his legs, his voice. And now I'm alone. And my daughter was 9 and in school, and so what do I do? How do I proceed? Meanwhile, in a different state, in eastern Pennsylvania, there was a family. Tina Singer Ames was living with ALS. She was diagnosed at 40, and her children, Adam and Nora, were under the age of 11. And Warren Benton Ames was her husband and caregiver. I decided to reach out at 2 a.m. and say to the world, please hire me. I need a job. I need a purpose. I'm depressed. I need to go back to work. I need to have a focus. And I got a job with the ALS Hope Foundation in Philadelphia as their director of communications. And the very first thing I did was create a fun family day for children who had grandparents living with ALS. And I ordered this book, What Did You Learn Today?, which was written by Tina Singer Ames, who died of ALS in December of 2000, 2 days before Christmas, leaving her 2 little children, ages 7 and 9, Nora and Adam. Warren Benton Ames delivered this book to the event because I had ordered them to give out as gifts, and we became friends. And later, in a private moment, he said to me, when his late wife was diagnosed, she fell to her knees and said, but who will raise my children? And my heart, that big heart in that small body, grew. And I knew that I was meant to raise her children, that my life has been about children. So we married, and our children, Alina, Nora, and Adam, were our bridal party. Adam was the best man. In the midst of raising 3 children, all of whom had lost a parent before the age of 11, I learned many things. Children grieve differently. Children express it differently. One may be depressed. One might be withdrawn. One might have behavioral issues. And as a teacher and a lover of children, I thought, and a supporter of children, I thought, why are there no resources for children who have parents or grandparents or family members, loved ones living with ALS? And this came to me. I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that. Then I realized I am somebody. I might be somebody weird, but I am somebody. In 2012, well, actually before that, 2009, the idea of Hope Loves Company came to mind. And that was because I'm an empath. When I'm around a lot of people who are miserable, I'm miserable. When I'm around a lot of people who are sad, I am so sad. When I'm around a lot of people who are energetic and happy, that's me. So I thought of Hope Loves Company. Hope is better than misery. Came up with it, Googled it, wasn't out there. Pages and pages of Misery Loves Company were found. And so I called a lawyer. I got a .net, .com, and .org, and $2,000 later, and years later actually, I created Hope Loves Company, and we are the only nonprofit in all of the United States with the mission of providing emotional and educational support to children and young adults who have family members living with ALS. In 5 years, we have created 15 camps around the nation for children, all of which are free. We have sent Hugs of Hope care packages to tell children they're not alone in this. We have provided scholarships and free books. I've been blessed to author 2 of the books that we send out. And just a quick side note that I have to share. The very first time I was looking for a campground, I arrived at a camp in New Jersey that someone suggested. I got there, And I looked around, and the dining hall had not changed. I was there when I was 15, attending a leadership skills conference. And I was like, wow, this was meant to be. It's supposed to be here. Today, we are a happy family. And even though we've all faced challenges in ALS, we are united in love and in hope. And that small child with the big nose, the small body, and the big heart was just on the cover of a local magazine where I live. Third step of finding your purpose is to know what drives you. So what propels you to be you and to live a life of purpose? I'm proud to say that very soon, I actually can just share, I gave a talk, 5-minute talk, slam, a story slam, if you have heard of those. And a man came into my office 2 days later and said, I want to tell your story. His name is Steve Besserman. He's telling the story of Hope Loves Company. So there's a documentary coming out in January. I am so excited to be a woman in my 50s and to celebrate and embrace what is next. Thank you.